Have you ever asked yourself, why don't I enjoy being around people like I used to? If that question touches your heart even a little, please know you're not the only one. Many people in their 60s, 70s, even 80s start to feel this quiet shift. They begin pulling back from social gatherings, family events, or phone calls that once brought joy. But here's the truth. It's not because you've stopped caring. It's not because you've become cold or bitter. It's something deeper. A quiet change from within. A change shaped by time, experience, and wisdom. In this video, let's gently explore 6 honest reasons why you may be stepping away from others, even if you were once the life of the party, even if you used to love being around people. Each reason is something many older adults go through, even if they rarely say it out loud. By the end, you may understand yourself better and feel a little more peace in your heart. Reason number 1, you've been hurt before and you remember it. As we get older, we don't just carry memories, we carry wounds too. Some are small, like arguments that were forgotten, but others stay with us. A friend who betrayed your trust, a loved one who disappeared when you needed them most. You start to protect your heart, not because you're angry, but because you've learned not everyone deserves your time or trust. Take Eleanor, for example. She's 81. She used to host big dinners every weekend. Her home was full of music and laughter. But over time, friends let her down. One shared a private secret. Another stopped calling after her husband passed. It wasn't one big heartbreak. It was a slow drip of little hurts. And now, Eleanor enjoys her own peace more than forced company. That's not bitterness, that's wisdom. You've lived long enough to see how people can change, and you've learned to guard your heart. You're not being cold, you're being careful, because your heart is sacred. Reason number 2, you crave peace more than small talk. When we're younger, we go along with all kinds of conversation, even the kind that feels shallow or noisy. But as we grow older, peace becomes more precious. Harold, a 76-year-old man, used to work in sales. He could talk to anyone. He was full of charm and jokes. But now, he avoids big events. He says, "I'm tired of talking just to talk." He doesn't need to impress anyone anymore. He wants real connection, or he wants silence, because silence isn't empty. It's peaceful. It's restful. You've earned the right to choose how you spend your time. If the talk feels fake or tiring, you're allowed to step away. It's not being rude. It's being honest. You'd rather sit quietly with a book than sit in a noisy room that leaves you feeling lonelier than when you walked in. That's not isolation. That's clarity. Reason number 3, you feel like people don't understand you. Anymore, sometimes it feels like the world has moved on and left you behind. The music is different. The language is different. The values have changed. Even conversations feel rushed. Marie is 79. She was a teacher, a mother, a volunteer. She used to share stories with her grandkids, how she raised 5 kids while working full-time. But now, they nod politely and look at their phones. They don't ask questions. It's not that they don't care. They just don't understand. And over time, that silence grows. You start thinking, why speak if no one's really listening? This is called emotional loneliness. You might be surrounded by people, yet still feel invisible. You know how deeply you feel, how much wisdom you hold. But when others don't see it, it hurts. So you pull back. Not because you don't love them, but because being misunderstood is tiring. And sometimes, your own quiet company is where you feel most seen. Reason number 4. You're afraid of being a burden. As we age, we don't always fear sickness or death the most. We fear becoming a burden. We don't want to interrupt. We don't want to ask for help. So we stay silent. We stay home. We stay small. Frank is 84. He used to visit his daughter's family every weekend. But as he got slower, he stopped going. He said, I don't want them changing their schedule for me. Even though his family never made him feel unwanted, he still pulled back because he didn't want to be in the way. Many older adults feel this. The more they need help, the less they want to ask for it. You've spent a life being strong, dependable. Now needing others feels unfamiliar, maybe even shameful. But hear this. Your presence is not a problem. People who love you want to be there. Still, the fear lingers. So you cancel plans. You don't share your worries. You hide your pain. And little by little, you drift away. Not because you want to, but because you're trying not to take up space. But you do deserve space. You do deserve support. Your needs are not a burden. They are part of being human. Reason number 5. Old friendships faded quietly. Not all friendships end in arguments. Some just fade away. One day you're walking and talking every week, then once a month, then once a year, then nothing. You don't stop caring. You just drift apart. Ruth, 73, had a best friend from high school. They used to walk together every week, but over the years their lives changed. Now they rarely talk. Ruth said, "We still care, but I think we've said all we needed to say." Sometimes you simply outgrow people. Not in a harsh way, just naturally. You've changed. They've changed. And your connection no longer fits. This can feel peaceful, or it can feel lonely. Often both. And instead of forcing it, you choose space. You choose quiet. You choose yourself. That's not failure. That's growth. Reason number 6. You enjoy your own company. Now there comes a time when you realize you don't need to be around people to feel complete. You've found comfort in your own skin, in your own home, in your own quiet. Gerald is 82. He used to host parties, talk to everyone, keep the house buzzing. Now, he sits on his porch and watches the birds. And he's perfectly happy. He says, "I've got enough stories in my head to keep me company for days." That's not loneliness. That's peace. That's contentment. You don't need to perform for anyone. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to pretend. This is the gift of aging. The freedom to be yourself, without apology. Solitude becomes your sanctuary, a place where you breathe easier, think more deeply, live more honestly. You don't need a crowd to be full. You just need time with yourself and the people who truly see and value you. Reason number 7, you've outgrown drama and conflict. When you were younger, you might have put up with arguments, gossip, or people who drained your energy. Maybe you tolerated tension just to keep the peace, or you stayed silent to avoid starting trouble. But now, in this season of life, you've had enough. You no longer want to be in the middle of family drama. You no longer want to explain yourself to people who don't listen. You no longer have the patience to deal with loud voices, rude opinions, or people who always have something negative to say. You've outgrown it. And that's okay. Take Darlene, for example. She's 78. For years, she went to every family get-together, even when she felt uncomfortable. Her daughter-in-law always had something critical to say. Her nephew always brought up politics. Darlene would leave those gatherings feeling tense and exhausted. Now, she picks and chooses where she goes. She says, "I don't go where I have to shrink myself to make others comfortable." That's not being rude. That's protecting your peace. At this stage in life, you realize you don't owe anyone your time if it comes at the cost of your well-being. You want calm, not chaos. You want warmth, not walking on eggshells. So you step back, not because you're bitter, but because peace is more important than pretending. Reason, Dr. 8. Your body feels different, and so do your limits. Let's be honest. Aging brings changes to your body, and sometimes those changes make socializing harder. Maybe you don't hear as well in loud places. Maybe standing for too long makes your legs ache. Maybe you get tired quicker than you used to. Even if your heart wants to go out and enjoy yourself, your body says, "Not today." This can be frustrating, especially when others don't understand. You might feel embarrassed to ask for help. You might feel nervous about falling or not being able to keep up. So you stay home. Not because you don't care, but because you're listening to your body. Arthur, 80, used to love attending church events. But after 2 knee surgeries, walking through the crowd became painful. He said, "I miss being there, but I just don't feel steady on my feet anymore." He started feeling left out, but also relieved, because being home meant less worry, less strain, less pushing himself past his limits. This is a very real reason many older adults step back. Your body is speaking, and it deserves to be heard with compassion. You're not lazy, you're not antisocial, you're being kind to yourself. And that's a form of strength. Reason number 9, you don't feel the need to be needed anymore. For most of your life, you were probably the one people relied on. You raised children, ran a household, helped friends, showed up for everyone. You were the helper, the problem solver, the strong one, and maybe deep down you got used to that role. It gave you purpose, it made you feel valued. But as the years go on, that role begins to fade. Your kids have their own lives. People don't call for help as often. You're no longer the center of everyone's needs, and that can feel strange, lonely even. You wonder, what do I offer now? Sometimes, instead of feeling included, you feel forgotten. But here's what's true. You are still worthy, even if you're no longer fixing everything. You still matter, even if the world is quieter around you. Gloria, 75, said, "I used to be everyone's rock. Now I'm just a quiet stone on the shore." But that quiet stone still holds beauty, still holds wisdom. You don't have to be needed to be valuable. So if you find yourself stepping back, it might be because you're learning how to exist just for you now, not for your usefulness, not for what you can give, but for who you are. And that's a beautiful shift. Reason Darshkar 10. You've learned that not everyone is meant to stay. There's a gentle truth that comes with age. Not everyone you meet is meant to walk with you forever. Some people are in your life for a season, a job, a neighborhood, a shared phase of life. And when that season ends, so does the closeness. That doesn't mean the relationship was fake. It just means it served its purpose. You've learned that holding on too tightly can bring more pain than peace. So now, you release people with grace. Take Samuel, 77. He had a good friend from work who used to call every week. Then the calls slowed down, then stopped. Samuel tried to reconnect, but the friend had moved on. At first, Samuel felt hurt, but then he said, "Maybe we were just good for each other during that chapter, and that's enough." This is the wisdom of growing older. You no longer chase people who don't choose you. You no longer beg for attention or hold on to one-sided friendships. You understand that letting go is not the same as giving up. It's making room for peace. And if your social circle has grown smaller, that doesn't mean you've lost. Final thoughts. You're not broken, you're becoming. So if you've been pulling away from people, if you've been enjoying quiet more than company, you are not broken. You are becoming. You are wiser, more aware, more selective. And that's something to honor, not hide. Your peace matters. Your voice still matters. Your presence still matters. You don't have to explain your distance. You don't have to apologize for needing space. Because your life, your time, your heart are sacred, and you have every right to protect them. Would you like me to continue this script with a soft call to action and outro, or create more scripts like this on similar emotional topics?